evening, ladies and gentlemen, kids of all ages. We can hear it again. What's up from Atlanta? What's up? Good evening, Ohio in the house.
That's right.
Connecticut. How's everybody doing today? We hope you had a wonderful weekend. Did you have a wonderful wet weekend?
Wonderful.
It rained all damn day, and it was documentary day.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like to call it. I watch documentaries all day. I don't remember what any of them were called, other than I watched the last Blockbuster.
Okay.
And I thought that was wonderful. It made me very sad.
I watch Yes They.
Yes, they?
Yes They.
Yes, they.
Yes.
It is not too bright to be 6:30. It's wonderful. It needs to be brighter. It needs to be bright till about 9 o'clock tonight. That would be wonderful. We know it's not going to. Mr. Vega is in the house.
Jeff Smith.
For those of you, real quick, for those of you that don't know, make sure to go over to Thursday nights, this past Thursday nights, Reverse Polarity with Hi-Fi Vega and myself on his channel, and give us why you should win the Dayton DSP. So don't forget to do that, because there's a good chance you could win the Dayton DSP. There's a very good chance. Just tell us why you need the Dayton DSP in your life. What's up, Doc? The last Blockbuster was awesome. It was, and it was so sad. God, it was so sad. I just miss... Don't get me wrong, I don't mind like just sitting at home and like surfing and finding stuff, but I feel I miss so many movies, because I used to just like walking around Blockbuster and finding that little hint, you know, that was just like, oh wow, I didn't even know that came out, and then rent it and watch it. And
what's up, Ben?
Dayton, as in Dayton, Ohio. I believe that's where they're located. Yes. Thank you, Dean, for the backup camera recommendation. You bet. Hello from Milwaukee in Delaware.
What's up?
Good evening. Hello from the Florida Keys. Is that where you're at, Jason? You lucky guy. Still thinking either Deviant or 25 Hertz needs that misery in their lives. Fix 86 on a 2016 Silverado with aftermarket amp and speakers. Best way to lower the factory tones. I mean, I wouldn't have done that particular piece in there, because it doesn't give you the ability to control any of the tones. I would have gone with either the Amp Pro or the AR with the GM3, which you could still... I'm sorry, well, you can't, because that's the DSR1 and the GM3. That's right, it's no AR. Your best bet is to figure out what frequency it's chiming at, which I want to say, what did he say? Somewhere around 500 hertz? Somewhere around 500 hertz. Put a very narrow, so take one of the 10 bands and make it very narrow, and then pull it down. Pray.
These kids today, they don't know nothing about Blockbuster.
Yeah, 500 hertz. Thanks, Jeff. So go, take one of the frequencies, 500 hertz, narrow the Q, pull it down. And that'll do your thing there.
Yeah.
I know, man. I know. I wish. No, I'm at work, just dreaming. Oh, I would dream better than the Florida Keys. I'm just saying. Hey, from Northern Maine.
Last week, just suggested P2s for the audio control 1300 amplifier. I call audio control, and they say the amplifier will be too much power for the P2s at 300 watts RMS. What are your thoughts?
Okay. I think they do just fine, personally, but I mean, really?
I mean, yeah.
There's a P2.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, no, I don't see any problem with that. I don't see any problem. I mean, hey, if you feel like you have to have the P3s, go for it, but I feel like the P2s is really all you need. That's just my thought.
Yeah, I think the P2s, they actually do perfectly fine.
Yeah. I think the P2s would handle it just fine. Never too much power. I know, right?
Yeah.
Unless you have not enough power. Oof. Wow. Those are... I don't even want to try to read that. You'd have to find that on your phone.
Yeah.
All right, before we get into too many questions, let's do this as always. We're going to jump into the photo of the week. For those of you guys that aren't familiar with the photo of the week, you can join the 12 Volt Clean Wire Club over on Facebook, and if you post a really awesome picture, then you get it spotlighted today here, and we'll come over to the laptop. And what we have is Mr. Jose put this in a boat and did a fabulous job. I think it looks spectacular, and obviously Fernando thought so too, because he was compelled enough to give him the spotlight of the week on that one. So if any of you guys need some marine stuff, reach out to Jose I don't know how to say that.
Borjas.
Exactly. Right there at the top. He commented on his own picture, let you guys know. So reach out to him, have him build you, hook up some cool marine stuff.
Yep, totally.
So, way to go, man. Very nice, very nice.
Very nice.
We like the clean marine for sure. Now, for those of you also remember at the 20-minute mark, we will be talking about a topic today. Today's topic is remote turn-on. And then at the 40-minute mark, we got something cool to talk about, as always. So, and of course, fundamentals one. So it's going to be the fundamentals.
Well, I hope your wife is better. And thank you for watching, brother.
Hello from Lake City, Florida.
Yes.
I have a Canon Exelon XR and a Helix amp and can't get it to clip at full volume when setting the input sensitivity. Am I doing something wrong, or should I just leave the input sensitivity on the Helix P6 DSP MK maxed out? Well, I can tell you right now that the Exelon XR radio doesn't clip. There's no clip at full volume. So if you have the volume all the way up on the input of your amplifier, you're not going to get a clip out of it. So as far as input sensitivity on your DSP, if it's not clipping the input, I mean, don't worry about it. But there again, always be mindful to not not make, anytime you can turn something down, turn it down. Let's just say that, because when you have to turn stuff up, then you get noise. It has a 5-volt output, so you're getting plenty of signal out of that into whatever processor you run it into, and it just doesn't clip all the way up. So, don't trust it.
All right.
What's up, Mom?
Hey, Mom.
You ready for the big?
I'm ready. Go.
All right. Hello, guys. I want to buy an APF 8.9 and go active with the Milli Legend 280.3. 1.5 at 90 RMS, and the 1800.3, 7 at 200 RMS, and some Hertz and Addison or Addison coaxials for the rear. Will this sound be loud and clean? I have a 2017 Civic Coupe. I also use an AP F1 for the subwoofer.
Okay.
So
basically what he's going to do is going to take the 8.9 and bridge it onto some Helix Pros,
Milli Legend.
Milli Legends.
Yes, Hertz Milli Legend.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Two-way set?
It's a 3-way. It's a 280. It's a 280.
The 280 is the mid-range.
Yeah,
right?
the 280.3. That would be the 3-way set, no?
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's the 280 point. That's a weird. I was looking at that the other day.
Yeah. I think it's not enough power.
It's not enough power if we're just going to be running front rear. If we're just going to be doing factory 75 watts across the board, that's not going to be enough power for that mid bass.
Yeah.
At all. Like you're not connected to the internet.
Oh yeah.
That's definitely not going to be enough power for the mid bass.
Yeah.
If you were going to use 1 and 2 for tweeter, 3 and 4 for mid, then bridge 5, 6, 7, and 8, but then you don't have anything for rear. Because 75 watts, those need more power than that.
Yeah. I got nothing.
I got nothing either. I think you need more power, personally.
Yes.
I think it's going to need more power, especially if that's a 3-way set. But as far as the question on the rear speakers go, you're going to want to get the Milli rear speaker coaxials. Don't go with the Audisons. They're not made to play together. Those are two different. 2-way will work. See, Lance, where have you been? 2-way will work. Right, because if you're doing a 2-way, you can do the tweeter on 1 and 2, 3 and 4 mid, 5 and 6 mid, 7 and 8 rear speaker, and then out to the sub amp. definitely you could do that because that's like 200 and some odd watts for those mid bass. But I 8 channel out of that. So 280.3 is the big tweeter.
Okay.
Okay, so the 280.3 big ass tweeter.
Yeah.
On that 1 and 2 would be fine.
Yeah.
And then a mid bass on bridging the 4 channels to 2 channels. So if you turn it into a 6 channel amp all day long, yes, no problems there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Oh gosh, you guys are typing paragraphs tonight, man. You got to dial it down a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna sneeze.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Audio Control says that since the sub channel is a mono 500 watts RMS, it is too much for the P2s. They say both subs will get 500 watts RMS at 2 ohms. I didn't think that was right. That's why I'm asking. I thought no. Yeah. No. I don't. No. Just run it. I don't. It doesn't make any sense at all. Audio Dynamic DSP. I have one. I haven't hooked it up yet. It uses the same software that a lot of these guys do. So really, we've used an Audio Dynamic bigger DSP. They make 2. I have the smaller 6 to 8. We've used the bigger 8 to 10. I think is what it is. It worked great, flawlessly. Did exactly what it was supposed to do. Had no noise. They use the same operating systems that a lot of these guys use for these type of DSPs. It's a great price point DSP, and it didn't sound bad. Didn't have noise. As far as I'm concerned, no noise.
Do you respond the Pontiac GA?
No, I did not.
I need help. It's a 2008 Pontiac GA GT. How can I keep my factory radio in the dash but use a secondary Bluetooth unit? Any suggestions?
Yeah, this was the same thing Will was talking about. It's the same car he has.
Okay.
So they have a. Okay, so there's a couple different ways you can do this. Is really what this comes down to, and this is where it gets kind of fun. Obviously, you need some form of a DSP. That'd be the form factor number 1. You need a DSP, all right, and not. Or you need something that has an auxiliary input with some summing. So at a bare minimum, you need like an LC8I. What that is going to do, both the DSP and the LC8I, is going to give you the ability to take your factory radio into that and use that as, let's say, source main. Then your secondary radio, like you could, I think a single DIN will fit down low in the pocket because I saw it yesterday, so I know it'll fit down there. And or a Bluetooth like the Moscone, the cool little Moscone thing, whatever the heck that's called.
Yeah, over there, all the way in the top. The AMOS.
AMOS.
Yeah, AMOS.
Or if you're just doing an audio controlled DSP, you could just set it up on preset 2 and go with the Bluetooth dongle. What's up, Cullum?
What's up?
How's it going down under?
All right.
Hold on, I'm not done yet.
Okay.
Okay, so you're gonna need 2 sources. You're gonna need something that's gonna allow you to switch between sources. So you can do it that way to where, main is gonna be factory radio, yada, 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 and aux is going to be your secondary source via your other radio or your Bluetooth device or whatever it is you're going to do. And then you're going to have a knob that's going to control it. So some form of that is the best way to do that.
All right.
Okay.
I have a Kenwood Exelon XR and then a Helix amplifier.
We covered that one.
Okay.
I think yes, yeah.
Yeah?
That was like the
The
first one we
clip-in?
covered. Yep, we got
Okay.
that one. Mr. Chris Bennett is in the house.
What about,
What's up?
Do you have any options on Focal Power 8-inch subwoofer? I'm loving the focals you guys put in my Ranger. The other day,
Oh yeah.
I was thinking about the Focal Power sub, but it's still in the face of that.
We haven't really done anything with a Focal powered sub, mainly because we have the Rockford P300 8-inch, which is the Rockford powered sub.
Yep.
But I think I think the Focal powered sub is the little metal box type thing. For that, we've done we could get the Focal, but we'd probably do the 10-inch Kenwood. I'm sorry, kicker.
The
10-inch kicker would probably be the way to go. You know, like on that back wall behind the seat, because I think that's what the Focal is. It's that all-in-one type thing. But definitely the most popular one out of the bunch is the kicker.
Yeah.
Which is the only one we haven't tested. However, we do have one on the way to test. So, hey, from Seattle. 17 volt with MyLink non-Bose. What's the best way to integrate amps into the system? Didn't find any T-harness. I have a DSR-1 and a Rockford T404. 17 volt. I don't think the DGM3. Yeah, I don't think the DGM3 works on that. And there probably isn't a T-harness other than the Metra doesn't make a T-harness, but they do make these, because they make, hold on, let me make this bigger here. They do make these. These are extensions for their DSP, which are basically, you can cut this and turn it into a T-harness. So if you take a screenshot right now, you can pretty much figure that one out. But if it's a 17 and it doesn't have any non-Bose, nothing like that, it's just going to be 4-channel out into the DSR-1 high level. It's going to be your best way to do it. There isn't anything special for that, unfortunately, right now.
All right.
Go.
All right. I'm connecting a pair of 4-ohm mids and tweeters together to a 2-channel amplifier off left and right. Each are passively crossover. I have a gain control at the amplifier, but how can I level down the tweeters to blend them in? Other than out of there?
L-pad.
L-pad, okay. Is there something at least I can integrate manually to attend the tweeters to attenuate? Yeah.
So the problem you run into a lot of the times when we look at like passive crossovers that are what we like to call the candy bar passive crossovers, meaning it's like a cap for a tweeter and a shrink wrap, and it's like a cap and a coil and shrink wrap for the mid-range. And the bummer side of those are that they don't have that negative 6, 12, 18, or 6 or 3, or they have no negative attenuation for them. So that kind of sucks. You could build a better passive crossover that will allow you to knock that down. Something like Parts Express probably has the parts that you could use to do that. Depending on the radio you have, you could easily just turn the treble down on the radio and accomplish that. Kenwood radios have well, if you if you have a bandpass on the amplifier, which my guess is standard 2-channel is not, you could actually bandpass the tweeters at 6 dB and knock them down, which is what comes in a Kenwood radio. They actually have a bandpass and will attenuate down the tweeters for you. You can do that right from the radio. You don't even have to. It's pretty cool. And you have individual level control for both right and left. As far as doing it passively with a 2-channel amplifier, if you don't have anything like that, no, you're pretty much out of luck. You could do it really old-fashioned if you wanted to, in which case, depending on where the tweeter goes, you could put a piece of foam in front of the tweeter or a cloth in front of the tweeter, and that will attenuate the tweeter down because you're actually using a material to make the tweeter quieter. That's an old trick we used to do back in the day. We'd put a piece of carpet over the tweeter to make it not want you to go blind. So that's about the only thing that comes to mind for me. Denmark in the house!
Alright, question. I have a 2017 Chevy Volt MyLink non-Bose.
We literally just covered that.
I
know.
I don't hear nothing, man.
I know, I understand. Next one. Yeah, we got that one.
Alright.
Yeah, they don't make anything for it. I showed them the T-harness.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
That's what I was looking for.
But that's okay. You know what? Let's take a break. Allow you to find your next question, because this takes us to the 20-minute mark.
Already?
So, yeah, I know, right? So it's time for Fundamentals of Car Audio. That's right, guys. We're going to hit this bad boy up. So everyone just take a second, take a minute, take a breather, and let's head over to remote turn-on. Today we're going to learn about remote turn-on. I know this seems like a really simple topic, but you'd be wrong. There's a lot of things about remote turn-on that, well, it can be painful, which is why we came up with this cool art here. What is remote turn on? Remote turn on is a 12 volt low amperage output used to activate accessories, usually from an aftermarket radio or some form of device. What I mean by some form of device is that means if you have like a DSP or something like that that has a output, that has an input and an output. That's really helpful because it usually has a relay built into it. So, or it's going to use some of the features we're going to talk about to create a remote turn on output. So there are not just one device now that has remote turn on, like an aftermarket radio. Some of your processors will generate a remote turn on for you as well. In the audio control world, that's called GTO, or great turn on. And then everyone has a version of it. Not every, most companies have a version of it. Some of the things you might turn on: amplifiers, DSP EQs, relays, fans, voltmeters, lights, video screens. Not all accessories should be connected directly to a remote turn on output. For those, you wire in a relay. How to wire up a relay. For those of you that want to know this, take a screenshot right now. This is the basic wiring diagram for a relay. Most 5-pin relays are going to be designed like this. You have a 30, an 87A, an 87, 85, and 86. 85 is going to go to ground. 86 is going to be the triggered input from the device, meaning the radio or DSP or whatever it is. 12 volt power in is going to be on 30. This is your hot input. This is going to feed the accessories. Make sure it is a fused source. Don't connect it to the output of the amplifier. It needs to be a low enough amperage that it will turn off the source power. So for example, if you're powering up 3 relays, you don't need to put a 30 amp fuse here. It'd be nice to put maybe, let's say, a 10, a 15, probably a 10 amp fuse on it. 87A is not used in this application, and 87 is going to be your output. Some relays have diodes built into them to prevent popping and voltage problems, or backfeeding as it were. And for those that don't, you can put a diode in there between 85 and 86. The stripe in this case will be towards 86 because we're using 86 for the remote positive input. If you were going to flip those two, you'd have to flip the diode. Sometimes amplifiers will backfeed into one another. A diode can be used to separate accessories so they do not backfeed into each other. The diagram here at the bottom is showing you your 12 volt in, 2 diodes, and 12 volt out. You will need a diode on everything you are trying to isolate. So if you have 2 amplifiers, you'll use 2 diodes. Don't use just 1 diode because you want to make sure that the amplifier doesn't feed back into anything else. So for every piece of equipment, use this. Now that is not a common thing. However, there are certain situations where some older amplifiers, that output becomes bad. That input becomes bad, in which case adding in a diode between your amplifiers will solve any issues. Also, if you have an amplifier that has like DC offset and it's doing strange things and it's backfeeding into the other amplifiers and you don't want it to do that, add in a diode and it will stop that. Diodes will let 12 volts positive pass through only. Diodes are directional. If you wire them up backwards, they will not work properly for what you're trying to do. If we're trying to pass 12 volts, the stripe is towards the device. Okay, moving on. There is more than one type of turn on. I know, right? Who would have thought? There is. There's actually 3 specific ones. There are others, but we're going to talk about the 3 main ones. The standard remote out can mostly be found on aftermarket radios. It is a blue with a white stripe. It is the standard color on those radios. Not the solid blue. The solid blue is an amplified, not the amplified turn on. It is the FM turn on for the amplified antennas. So blue with a white stripe should only be used to turn on amplifiers on a standard radio. The next, which is becoming the most popular for sure right now, is DC offset. This diagram here is showing you how to measure for DC offset with a standard digital multimeter. You set your digital multimeter to the line with the dots beneath it. One lead goes to ground, The other lead is going to go to the positive of the speaker. If you have somewhere around 6 volts, you have DC offset. Turn the car off, wait for it to go to sleep, make sure it goes away. It may not turn on and off with the car because the car's stereo, though the screen will go off, that does not mean that the back side of it, meaning the amplifiers and whatnot, are actually turning off. A lot of times when you turn off a car on a modern car, all it's doing is turning off the screen. It is not actually turning off the stereo because there are chimes and or it takes a long time to boot up. So they're doing a staggered shutdown so that everything just doesn't go boom, off, speaker pop. DC offset is a 6 volt DC voltage found coming over the speaker output wires. It is usually found on a factory radio or amps. It can be tested with a digital multimeter. Connect the positive test lead to the plus speaker output, connect the black lead to ground, and turn on the radio. No volume is needed. The meter should read 6 volts with the car on. Signal Sense. This is an oldie but a goodie. I'm not a big fan of Signal Sense, however, it is getting better. Signal Sense senses the AC signal output coming from your source. Sound is AC, so it is looking for that. It's looking for that AC to move up and down. When it sees it moving, it goes, oh, I'll turn on, because it's got to be sound coming in. Most will have a delay off so that the low volume or pause the sound does not turn it off. This was a problem when Signal Sense first came out. Between tracks, there's no sound, so it would turn itself off because it wouldn't see that. So now the smarter ones have put a delay in there that waits and says, oh, I have no sound. 1, 2, 3. Oh, sound is back. Also at lower volumes or quieter sequences, they weren't that sensitive. It would be like, oh, there's no sound. Just shut off. Well, now it's like in a quiet moment of the song, if it's not doing much, it won't automatically just shut off and kill whatever you got going on to it. It is the most reliable choice of the choices. Good play on words, Dean. There again, if it's an option, I don't like to use it. If it's the last option, I'm probably still going to find something else. But in a pinch, it'll do the job. Because of this, there are some add-on, turn-on devices. So life has gotten better. Not everything has DC offset or signal sense or something like that. Sometimes we just have to go find something else. This is a group of devices used to solve problems in your install. In the past, you could just connect to an accessory turn-on in the car. Today's cars, however, do not always have a usable accessory turn-on. You might get lucky and the cigarette lighter will turn on and off with the car. However, if you have an American car, that might not be the case. So you have to figure out a way to get these amps to turn on and off, or whatever it is you're trying to turn on and off. PAC Audio makes the NIG3 or Ignition 3, as well as WaveTech makes the IRAD. These devices use voltage sensing to activate and have delays to stay on in newer stop-start cars. This is actually a really cool category of devices. What it does is once the car starts up and your alternator starts putting out power, it says, hey, the DC has changed, and it turns on. Then it has a timer. When you shut the car off, it stays on because it doesn't know if it's a stop-start or just turning the key off. They usually have some form of variable adjustment time off, meaning you can say, I want it to stay on for 5 seconds, I want it to stay off, or whatever. So when you turn the car off or the stop-start turns the car off, it will keep that power source on for up to 30 seconds, as little as 10 seconds, and then so you can enjoy your music. The downside to this device is you have to start the car in order to use this as a turn-on. You can't just put it in run, with the key on and have it make sound, because it needs to see the alternator turn on. It's basically using some of the oldest technology ever, signal voltage sense, which is what we've been using with remote starts for years and years and years, when you didn't have to go grab a wire underneath underneath the hood. PAC Audio makes the TR4, and Access makes the aux URT. These devices can use a low voltage input to activate an output. This is basically something akin to looking for DC offset. You could take both of these devices, and if your sound system has DC offset, you can connect the positive wire to the positive speaker wire, ground it, and it has an output that will turn a device on. It's a low amperage output, so I do strongly recommend anytime you use one of these to turn on more than one thing, you do use a relay. But these can be very helpful. We've ran into several situations where we needed an external DC offset in order to turn the amplifiers on, and the TR4 was a saving grace in it. We try to keep at least one or two of these around the bay all the time. Pack Audio makes the TR7 and Access makes the Trigger. These devices are both very similar. These devices use an assortment of inputs to create custom outputs. Basically what that means is these can do all kinds of things. If you need something that has a delay turn on, if you need something that has a delay turn off, if you need them to sense DC offset or a low signal input, it can do that. So these are kind of like the Swiss Army knife of creating turn on and turn offs. PAC also makes a product called the Volt 39. This device can lower the output voltage of the output turn on. This is also very helpful when dealing with backup cameras or something like this Ford Mustang sitting over here. This used a 5-volt turn on to turn on the factory amplifier. If you throw 12 volts at it, what you get is this tremendous turn on pop. So you put a Volt 39 on it, it'll do 3, 5, 6, or 9 volts on a little switch on the side. You switch it to 5, you don't have a turn on pop anymore. It's a pretty spectacular thing. Most factory cameras need a 6-volt turn on. Try to put 12 volts to them, you're going to be buying yourself a new camera. This device will solve that problem. These are all pretty cool little devices that you can have hanging around the install bay. But as you can see, remote turn on is just not a simple blue-white wire on the back of the radio anymore. It's getting quite complex. And we hope this helps you just a little bit trying to figure out what you might have going on in your car and or a solution for it. Boom. And this, guys, has been Fundamentals of Car Audio. You can find all these products, of course, those things we just talked about, at dnftooldrawer.com. Thanks for playing.
Bye.
Alright, hold on. Could you please go over how to use a relay to power terminal banks for things like LED strips? Okay, so let me go back here. This relay, the diagram of the relay that we have right here, this can be used, this is exactly the diagram that you need. 86 is your triggered input. In this case, you'd be using it for remote turn on. However, you could use it for any input you want. So for example, if you have an accessory output somewhere, or if you have a toggle switch, or whatever it is that you want to use to turn on something else, 86 is your input trigger for that. 85 is going to be ground. The way a relay works is it has an electromagnet inside of it and a switch. The electromagnet is charged with 86 and 85. It doesn't matter which way you put them on, it only matters if you're using a diode. As you charge that coil, the magnet will pull the switch over. The switch has a common point because it's like this or it's like this. 87A is resting, meaning at 87A the electromagnet is off. As soon as you charge it, it pulls it over to 87. So there's your on-off. 30 is your pivot point. So when you're sitting there and you have it hooked up to, 30, 87A, 87A is going to be hot output. Some people don't like to do it that way. Some people will hook 87 up to constant 12 volts and pass that out to 30. Either way, that is your pass-through. The nice thing about relays is there's a lot of different ways you can hook them up and all get to the same point. But you just have to remember that it does this, and you're using 85 and 86 to charge those two things. If it's a positive trigger, you're going to use, just hook it up, you ground the other side. You can also use a negative trigger. If you're going to use a negative trigger, then you'd hook 86 up to whatever power source you want it to be, via constant 12 volts or accessory. Then you can have a toggle switch for ground, and it'll just turn on whenever you want. So, there you go. Boom. Wasn't that fun?
All right.
What do you got for me?
All right. I have a 2-kicker key 200.4
Yep.
amplifier. A set of Morel 3-ways for the front. on my car and a set of Morel coaxials for the back. How will you wire this setup?
With the kicker key?
With 2 kicker keys.
So we've kind of thought about this in the past. The problem with the kicker key is that channel 1 and 2 can be a tweeter or a mid-range. Channel 3 and 4 is designed to be a mid-bass. I would probably take, like even with the new Snowman that's coming out, they give you an extra capacitor to put on it. So if you wanted to use the kicker key to power up the Snowman, which is the tweeter and the 2.5, you need to put a bigger bass blocker on it, so probably something like a 47 microfarad cap. So you could take one kicker key and power the tweeter and the mid-range, and you could take the other kicker key and power the front and the rear. You'd set up one kicker key as biamp mode, and you would have to tune them both separately. So you'd have to tune the one that's doing the biamp mode for the front on its own, disconnect that, do the one for the front and rear, and then you just kind of have to play with the gain controls to match them up so they blend well. But that would be how you do it. You will need the cap though, like I said.
Do you see the Macintosh amplifier? The big one?
The one that won the Morel?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, so somebody's like, hey, did you show Dean?
Yeah, I saw that today. We sold the crap out of those things, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were fun. That's basically an MC431 and 2 of the mono blocks and 1 heatsink. It was big, it was heavy, and yes, it was always fun to try to put that in a car.
Okay. It's crazy. I mean, I never see one in person like that, so it is safer to run my amplifier at 2 ohm instead of 1 ohm. That way it's not maxed out. And the amplifier is saved by the manufacturer. Or should I put it at 1 ohm and put it 8 dB instead of 10 dB at 1 ohm for the gain of the sub? Thank you.
Basically the question is, if my amplifier would do 1 ohm, do I run it at 1 ohm? And the answer isn't as simple as you would think. If you have an amplifier, a high quality amplifier, that there's a certain group of amplifiers that it doesn't matter whether you're running it at 1 ohm or whether you're running it at 2 ohm. It puts out the same amount of power for the most part. For the most part. It doesn't always. It's close enough to where they call it, DC straight. I would run it at 2 ohm if that was the case, because there's no reason to go to 1 ohm. You can, but I would still run it at the 2 ohm load and just be nice to the amplifier.
To be safe, yeah.
Now, then there's a whole other category of amplifiers that have a reasonable price point. So, for example, like the Scar RP 1500.1. It'll run 1 ohm, and it'll give you, 1500 watts. And yes, you can run it at 1 ohm. It'll do it. However, it would probably be nicer to the amplifier to run it at 2 ohm. So in that case, I wouldn't buy the RP 1500. I'd buy the RP 2000 and run it at 2 ohm. I get the same amount of power. I'd spend a little bit more money. I'd be a little bit nicer on my amplifier. Probably end up drawing the same amount of current as I would if I was running the 15 at 1 ohm, running the 2000 at 2 ohm. It would all equal out. I would just spend a little bit more money, and hopefully my amplifier would last a little bit longer. If the amplifier says it'll do 1 ohm, chances are good it's going to run 1 ohm all day long as it's installed properly and you have all the boxes ticked as far as what it's requiring. The problem that you run into is that most of the time all the boxes are not ticked, meaning you're running at 1 ohm and you don't have a good power source. I mean, you got like one battery underneath the hood and it's 3 years old, and that amplifier now is running at, let's say, 12.5 volts instead of the 13 volts or 13.5 volts that it wants, and that's with the alternator on, which means it's actually probably closer to 11 or 10 volts, so it's constantly going into low battery voltage, and that's where you just kill these amplifiers. It has nothing to do with whether the amplifier can do it. In a perfect world, every amplifier should be able to do whatever the amplifier says it's capable of doing. Unfortunately, when you put it into a car, most of the time you're not dealing with a perfect world. So, yeah, you just, if you don't need the power and you just bought the bigger amp, well, run it at 2 ohm.
All right. Do I need a special cord to configure the iData Maestro RR for 2016 for F-150? Trying to configure what certain buttons to do?
Is it an RR?
It's an RR, yeah.
Inside the box for the RR is a USB cable. That's all you need. That's it.
It's a micro USB.
It's a micro USB. Depending on what and where your RR was made, there's two different cables for it, but it's in the box when you buy the RR. It's all set and ready to go. So you just open the box and take it out. It's in the same bag that the power plug comes with. I do recommend downloading the software to your desktop if you haven't already done that. And you can go to their new website and check it out, but it's the WebLink desktop app, and that allows you to set up your system. What we do is we have, since the Mac, which it's nice because it does Windows or Mac, the Mac uses a USB-C connection, so we have both of the cables for it, which, there's two different USB, micro and whatever the other one is. So we zip tie them together. We just, pull this off and switch it, and there we go. That's what we do. So, yeah.
All right.
Now, if you're trying to program the MPOs, like if you have an RR2 and you're trying to do that, there are instructions on the website on how to do that.
All right, question. I currently have a 4 JBL GTO 100 watts 3 ohm on a JBL 100.4 at 2 ohm. I'm looking to add volume to my JBL 3.5 dash speakers. It's a 25 watts 2.3 ohm with the bass blocker. Currently connected to the head unit. I would like to connect these speakers to my amplifier, but the 1 ohm low will blow something up. Could you recommend some tweeters, or can I add a low resistor just trying to add some volume to the dash for my Toyota Camry?
I mean, the reality of it is anytime you use the radio as a power source for anything, you don't usually have a good experience with it. Because the radio's factory amplifier, that stupid little IC power chip inside of it, is going to die out way before your other amplifiers do. And it's a 15 watt amp. So you have a 100 watt amp, you have a 15 watt amp, you're trying to blend those two together. The best thing to do is just get another amplifier. I mean, you don't need anything special, you just need something small with a gain control. I mean, that's it, that's all you need. I mean, you could buy an Alpine brick amp for, or their new amp that goes in the back, or pick up a small 2-channel or 4-channel JBL. But you really should have an amplifier just to power those. That is the problem you're running into, is you can't control the volume of them without a volume knob. And adding a tweeter isn't going to do anything for you. It's just going to, you have 100 watts, you got 15 watts. Get a small amplifier. You can pick up an amp for $100, throw it in there, then you're going to have all your problems solved. You'll be able to blend everything together and have a happy world.
All right. Do I need to use low resistors for a 2015 F-150 without the factory amplifier?
We always use the Audio Control LGD Blues. So if you head over to DNF Tool Drawer, and you go to, let me just go over here, DNF Tool Drawer, we'll come down to Install Stuff, and you'll scroll down, and you'll see these guys right here on the bottom that says LGD2s. I would run a set of those on that, and you'll be fine.
Alright. What speakers are made up for a two-way component versus the three ways? Are they made up at the same components, or their variations?
It depends on the manufacturer. The question is, are the speakers different in a three-way set as opposed to a two-way set? It's not an easy answer of just saying yes or no. It depends on the speaker, depends on the level of speaker you're buying. In some cases, there are differences between the 6.5-inch mid-bass in a three-way set and in a two-way set, because the speaker in the three-way set, they can actually design to play a lower frequency, basically do a frequency shift because there's a small driver in there and it doesn't have to play up as high. So when it doesn't have to play up as high, you can make it play down lower. However, most manufacturers, a 6-inch mid-bass is a 6-inch mid-bass is a 6-inch mid-bass. So if you buy a set of speakers, it's just, you get what you get. Meaning the tweeter will play down to this point, the 6.5 will play up to that point. Oh, there's a mid-range in there? Fine, we'll just tune this down through the crossover so it will allow the mid-range to play. The best example of this is when we did Fernando's car in the lab. We put the brand new Morel hybrids in there. They sent us the 3-way set, and we went through the whole category. We talked all about it, but we actually just used the tweeter and the mid-bass in his car because each speaker is the same, meaning it didn't matter whether it was a 3-way set or a 2-way set. The tweeter is the same, the mid-bass is the same, the mid-range is the same. And on a lot of your higher-end speakers, that's what you're going to find. Take that into some of your more affordable speakers like Sony, JBL, for example, and Infinity, Alpine. They have an add-on mid-range. So you buy the 6.5 component set, and then you buy their extra mid-range. Some of them will give you a crossover to actually input them in. Sony did that for a while. I don't know if they still do that. I know Infinity and JBL did it. Alpine just sells a 2.5-inch mid-range that you just actively have to figure out how to get in there because it doesn't come with any crossover at all. So, and they don't make a different one. They don't make an R-type and an X-type. They just make a 2.5-inch mid-range. So if you have an X-type, you add their mid-range. If an R-type, you add their mid-range. It doesn't matter. But yes, I feel now a lot of the times what you're running into is that you get the same speaker all the way through. Where that was different was on the, I don't know about the current set of Focal K2s, but years ago when they had, like 10 years ago when the K2s were in whatever version they were in that, the 6.5-inch mid-bass and the 3-way set was different than the 6.5-inch mid-range with the non-3-way set because it was designed to play a lot lower, and it played a lot lower. But I think nowadays they're all pretty much the same. Okay.
How can I go active with a 6-channel DSP 360.3 with 2 sets of 3-ways and subs?
I mean, the math is there. You have so many channels, you want to go active. To go active, you have to have a channel for each speaker. If you're just trying to go active crossover, and you have 2 sets of, then you just go, okay, tweeters get this channel, mid-range get that channel, mid-bass get that channel. Doesn't matter where they're at in the car, you just actively cross them over. It's where you want to now EQ them and time align them that you run into a situation where things might be a little weird. Because you can't do any of that. You can EQ for tweeter globally, meaning like all the tweeters we want to sound like this, all the mid-range we want to sound like that, and all the mid-bass we want to sound like that. But if you're trying to EQ for position, then you can't do it. So you have to have, that's why they have 12-channel DSPs, is really what it comes down to. So that's the answer to that. And before you answer the next question, let's take this over to the next fun and exciting thing. That's right, the hits keep rolling. Oh wow, that didn't load in. Hold on. What the heck? Let's do this. Let's do that. And this is Spotlight! That's right. This is the time of the show where we put up a cool thing that we think is cool or something you might want to learn about. Just anything that kind of like, hey, did you guys know about that? And for this week, we have something that some of you guys may or may not know about. Oop, wrong button. And it's this right here. High Level Talk, the 12-volt news show. That's right. Over on the other YouTube channel, that's Dean and Fernando's car stereo clips that you see right here. Every Friday morning at 9 o'clock, we do a news show where we take you through and we talk about the hottest things that are in the world of 12-volt and, just get you excited about it. We scour the internets to come up with cool stuff. And, well, hey, why is this not playing? Play. Okay. Oh, yeah, I want to show you Fernando's cool little... There you go. Anyways, every Friday, 9 o'clock, check it out. We also put it up, a link to it on our Facebook page. If you guys, there we go. So this is Fernando's cool intro. It's pretty awesome. Well, yeah, make sure you guys check this out either in the rebroadcast or check it out live. I will tell you this, we give something away on pretty much every show. So, you know, if you guys are up that early in the morning on a Friday, make sure to check it out. And that's been Spotlight. We got to add with Dean and Fernando on there.
Yeah.
That one's not totally hammered out yet. We're just kind of working on that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. The question
Oh,
about
cool, we
the
got
JBL.
Get Jack's shirt on the way.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I hope they work fine with the $25.
I'm assuming it did. For those of you who don't know what he means by the Get Jack shirt, it's not perverted in any sense of the word. We have a deal right now with WireCare. If you use the URL wirecare.com/5star and you spend $25 or more, you get the cool new Get Jack t-shirt. Honestly, it's one of the coolest shirts ever. And if you use this URL, it'll take you right to it so you can see what it looks like. What are you doing? You breaking it?
No, it's like that was backwards.
Okay. Anyways, make sure you head over to wirecare.com, and I'll leave this up for a little bit so you guys can figure it out. Ask your next question, Fernando.
All right. The question about the JBL speakers. If I need another amplifier to run my dash speakers, do I just split the front channels with my RCA splitter?
That is a terrific question. Where do you get your sound from to go to that next amplifier? And your guess is correct. If you're going to have the speakers on the front channel, then you're going to use the front output RCA to power those speakers up. In the case of, let's say, a three-way set, let's say you had 3 amplifiers or 3 sets of channels, you would power them all off of the front RCA. The rear would be the same if you have anything going off that. In a DSP, you can set it up to, let's say, channel 1 and 2 or tweeter are going to be powered off, channels 1 and 2, 3 and 4 are mid-bass, they're going to be powered off, channel 1 and 2. Channel, the mid-range, or you get the idea, channel 5 and 6 are going to be powered off, channel 1 and 2. But yes, you could use some Y jacks to go out to your new amplifier, and that would be exactly what you'd want to do.
All right. So when wiring up audio batteries, do they have to be matching or can be all mismatched?
So here's the problem with mismatch versus matching. Ideally, what would be wonderful is if you could buy 2 batteries that match at the same time and put them one under the hood, one in the back. Life would be great. Most of the time, you're not going to be able to do that. If you have a daily driver that you're driving every day of the week, it doesn't sit for weeks at a time. If you had, let's say, a standard battery underneath the hood and you had a smaller battery in the back, where, like I said, you're driving it all the time, you're going to be fine. It's going to work. You're not going to have any issues. Done hundreds of cars like that. If you have a system in a car where you have a really big battery in the back and you have a standard battery underneath the hood, then I strongly suggest getting some form of a switching relay. They call them isolators now, or isolating relays. They usually come anywhere between 200 to 500 amps. I strongly recommend installing one of those. That way when the car is off, the 2 batteries go to their own corners and don't affect anything. If you have a vehicle where it's going to sit for an extended period of time, let's say 2 or 3 days, it doesn't matter what battery situation you put in it, I there again strongly recommend putting some form of a battery relay to separate the 2 batteries so that they don't sit there and drain each other or beat each other up or draw off each other or do any bad things. You don't want bad blood between your batteries.
All right. Does the speaker location and placement make a difference in an active 3-way front stage? Like tweeter high, mid-bass, low, and the door.
Yeah, speaker placement 100% is one of the most important things of your audio system. However, most of the time you don't get the options of trying to figure out where you can put things. Yes, you can custom build any location and have a wonderful experience with that. If you have the talent to do it, by all means, I recommend doing it. However, if you don't, you're kind of stuck with what the factory provided for you. Most of the time you want a tweeter up high, somewhere around you, because the tweeter is going to be the most directional speaker and it has the worst off-axis, meaning it has the narrowest beam Let's use it that way. It has the narrowest beam of sound directed towards you. So usually it's up someplace high where it's closer to your ears so that when it beams, you hear it. The mid-range has a wider beam that's typically going to go up in the dash or higher in the door, below the tweeter. And then the mid-bass is going to be the farthest down in the corner because it's playing the lower frequencies and they're not as directional, and usually it has the widest beam, meaning you can be off axis of it and still get a good amount of sound from it. If you can aim everything at you, wonderful. But the chances of that happening without building all custom stuff, usually not the case. If you decide to build everything and aim it for you, definitely make sure you have some form of a DSP so you can control those levels and of course EQ them to fix any of the problems you're going to have.
The promo worked fine.
50
About
feet of
50 feet of
text
text. There you go.
There you go. Freaking awesome.
Also, with the Toyota customers that he won the ears bleed, was the Scar Audio considering his build?
That's
no,
your guy.
No, because we wanted to have mid-bass still on the doors, and the 6x9s played really
They play
good mid-bass. So that's the reason why we went to the big tweeters and the
He
dash.
wanted it really, really
Loud,
bright,
Yeah.
but not in the sense that he wanted, let's say, a closed back or an open back mid-range in the bottom of the door that's just going to play from 500 hertz up.
Yeah.
So that wasn't his speed. He wants really high highs and really deep bass. And the in-between is like he still wants his mid-bass. It's something new that we're finding a lot of guys are asking for, where they want their ears to bleed, but they don't want just...
They don't want to lose that mid-bass.
They want a 6-inch tweeter in the door, which is what a lot of those things sound like. So they're like, I want mid-bass. And you're just like,
Yeah, that was good.
It's a tough one. So we put mid-bass in the door and we can get that. So we can have a super loud tweeter that just is overwhelmingly bright and then still hear music. So yeah, it's weird. I know, but it works for them.
Yeah, I mean it was good.
But we have done just to not to diss Scar in any regards. We have done a couple cars now where yes, Scar was the first thing on the table, and we did some loud ass speakers up in the dash. We had some mids in the door, but we DSP'd it, and that saved the day because I can't sit in a car that just sounds like that. But they like that sound, so we tune it there again. We tune to them, but we also try to give them something that they might not expect, and it's worked out really well so far.
Do you guys have a typical schedule on Instagram, or is just random hours and days that you guys come on?
Instagram is random. It's 100% random. We really don't have a time where we like to do it. We try to do somewhere in the middle of the day, but it doesn't always work out. That 2-3 o'clock seems to be a really sweet spot for us. But if we're busy, and it just kind of happens. That's why on Mondays we do the Instagram recap show on YouTube, to where if you've missed one or you don't feel like trying to find it in the feed or something like that, you can kick back, relax. And this week apparently watched 3 hours. 3 freaking hours of Instagram videos. So for those of you that are like, where's my Monday show this morning? Why isn't Instagram up? Because YouTube got really ticked when I uploaded. I didn't even pay attention to it. They got really upset when I tried to upload 3 hours of video.
They think there was Avengers 3
They thought Avengers 3 was coming back up. So somehow it didn't finalize.
Yeah.
And I had to re-upload it again this afternoon.
Okay.
So it's up now. You can go check it out for sure. And we appreciate you guys for doing that. Let's get one more question before we hit the road.
All right. For the 6-channel amplifier doing a 3-way front, are there splitters with 1 female into 3 male out? I don't think so.
There isn't.
That way, I only need 2 splitters, 1 for the right channel, 1 for the left channel. No.
Unfortunately, just getting these manufacturers to make Y-jacks for us in the first place is enough of a struggle. But no, they don't make what you're asking for. The closest thing you'll find to something like that, which still isn't going to be anything like that, is Kicker's version of a Y-jack. They make 1 Y-jack, and it comes with a bunch of barrels, both male and female. So when you buy the Kicker one, You can literally turn it into whatever you need, but it's still a Y, a single Y.
Okay, now, can you make a Y jack from the Diario? Did Diario make those?
No.
No?
No.
RCAs?
No, not what he wants to do. No, it's unfortunate. I know. All right, guys. That's it. That takes us to the end of the show. It has been an hour. Oh, my gosh. We've learned so much today. It has been so crazy. I know. But, hey, thanks so much for tuning in. As you can see down below, we have the D-Wire ruler up. If you guys haven't got one of these, make sure you head over to mobilesolutions.usa.com because it'll take your wiring skills to the next level. That's right. Can I send you guys something? Where do I send it? You can just send it to the 5-star location here at the store.
Yeah.
Which, you know, if you Google 5-star car stereo, it'll give you an address here in Clearwater, Florida.
It's 5-star car stereo, Clearwater, Florida.
I don't
That's
know
it.
the rest.
It's 2795 Gulf to Bay Boulevard, Clearwater, Florida. Zip code is 33759.
You've filled out way too many
727. Yeah, never mind.
All right, guys. DNF Tool Drawer is a place you can go and find all the cool tools that we use, along with those cool installation accessories that we showed you earlier. Just scroll down. We got a bunch of tabs here for you to do. It's lots of fun there. If you want to have cool swag and wear a cool shirt, oh, see, there it is right there. You can head over to teespring.com/store/5-star where you'll find all your cool 5-star paraphernalia. One of the shirts that is definitely hot for sure is the Jeff Smith shirt.
Do you know him?
Do you know Jeff Smith? I know Jeff Smith.
Really?
The reason why we're bringing that up is this Saturday, Mr. Fernando here is taking the day off to spend the day with his beautiful wife. That
quit.
means we're going to have DSP Talk with Jeff Smith, episode number 2. I'm going to put up on YouTube a questions thing so that you guys can write in questions. So don't worry about it. I'll put something up Wednesday so you guys can write in a bunch of stuff. I'll figure out how to do that. And otherwise, make sure you tune in Saturday at 6 o'clock on YouTube. We'll have Jeff on. We'll talk more about DSP. We'll have a good time. He's excited. I saw him this weekend. He was super excited. He's like, oh, we do it again. He's like, I'm thinking of stuff. I was like, you think of stuff, and I'm going to ask them if they have stuff. So.
Power or efficiency? Yes.
Power or efficiency. Hey, spam risk. Ooh, let's just end that. And with that, guys, that's the show.
I like it. That's awesome, man. Yes. All right, guys.
That was good. You guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Make sure to tune in on Instagram for 5 Minutes with 5-Star. Yes, we randomly do it, and if you miss it, make sure you go watch the show. There's 3 hours of show right there. You guys can start watching now. It'll take you right into bedtime. What fun, and it's so exciting to do.
Good night, guys.
Have a wonderful week. Yeah.
See you guys tomorrow. Bye.